Welcome back. Or let's continue. Parts have come in. I've got my new output sprocket. That's going to take care of the looseness in the splines. The new O-ring should take care of the leak. Obviously the seal ain't in yet. But I thought what I would do is disconnect it from the engine. That can give me a little bit better look at the clutch, but that's looking pretty new as we saw. Drain the fluid. As long as there's no gremlins hanging on the magnet or chunks coming out, we're just going to keep rolling with just getting it sealed back up. It's one of those how far do you chase it things. It seemed to shift and drive good. Fluid is very clean, but you know, if it's been leaking like that, they're continuously feeding it new stuff and hopefully never let it get too low. Got a new filter. There's the AGCO part number for filter, and those that are wondering, that is the same filter that goes under the floorboard to filter the transmission. Oh wow, it wasn't like cranked on super tight. Looks okay. Looks good. Nothing out of the ordinary on the plug. No shiny stuff, no glitter to it. There is once it hits the bucket, because this bucket's kind of dirty. We had some glitter oil in it already. Yep, I think we're gonna throw caution to the wind. Yeah, just some really fine, very minor on the magnet. I have seen far worse. No sludge on the bottom. Yeah, I think we're gonna roll with it, baby. I'll let that drain for a little bit. I'll get this plug cleaned up, get some fresh goo on it, seal her back up. Then we'll separate it. That way I can put a drill on it, test it, check the pressure, make sure that I'm actually fixing that leak and there ain't something that I'm missing. I was checking the parts book, and early ones did have hex heads on them, but I could feel this corner's worn off right there. All the inner ones, and they switched to a ferry bolt, a 12-point cap screw. So I gotta go digging in the barn. I got a parts unit. It's a cold barn that I gotta go to, so I haven't been too eager, but then again, I need to probably do that before. No, I can get them all changed with the sprocket still on. Definitely want to do it before I drop it back in. We'll just pull them out one at a time, swap bolts, put a new copper crush washer on, and that'll help with the clearance. They must have discovered that things get a little loose or worn. And yeah, that one's rounded off. That one's rounded off. And it's got a little rounding. That one's not quite so bad. Okay, bell housing bolts in. Or out, rather. So, you know, push on the clutch should, you know, push them apart. Probably they silicone that too. There she goes. I have my guide dowel bolts to, you know, keep everything from twisting all crazy before it totally separates. There, she let go. Yeah, good splines in both. Yeah, look how clean that clutch is. It's rusty. I would say that's a new clutch. We're gonna leave her at that. Yeah, it looks like a new throwout bearing. Looks like there's fresh grease underneath it. I'll take that hose out, pump it, whatever grease is out of it, out. There's some power washing dirt. I don't know, they cleaned somewhat in here. So yeah, it's been a little bit since the 3-speed's been apart, just from the crud. Input shaft looks fine. No sign of rear main seal leaking. I could just keep going and going and overhaul the whole thing and restore it. We're not doing that right now. Yeah, I see no reason to go farther there. There, a little scraping, wire wheeling, got the bulk of that crud out of there. So let's get this clutch throwout bearing. Yeah, I could see there was fresh grease on the tube, but I like to pack that little recess with high temperature clutch grease, high temperature, because it won't melt out easy. And grease, because that will slide. I have seen these tubes get yanked out of there, and then the things go bad. Pushes against the clutch disc, clutch won't let go, sparks, grindy noises, and you're pulling the engine. I've often wondered why they even put an inspection plate. I guess you can verify that your clutch is throwing pieces around, but there's really not much anything you can do without pulling the engine. And I want to pull that because who knows what grease they have in there, and not all high temperature greases are compatible. So I like to pump that tube out and get my grease in it, and then we know. Put some sealant stuff on that, but you know what? Since I'm driving that in, I'm going to pack some grease on this side so that spring doesn't come flying off. Oh, where are you, old seal? I know you're around here somewhere. And then locking tab thingamajigger. And then I am replacing the factory nut with a bear hug nut, just like I have on other ones. It's basically a nylock nut for this style of bearing nut, as they call them. Now the fun part, holding it. If I can. Normally I tighten this up before I put the side cover on. There we go. And I can jam something in there. We're gonna call that good. I don't really like using the impact on this because those little tabs on that spanner nut don't have a lot of, well, let's just say I've tried it before. Oh, I got just a little. Between that locking tab and the nylon part. And if you're wondering, that is it's a BHM-08. Punch that into the old Google machine. You'll find it. There's lots of places that have them. I got this one off from eBay. Pretty good deal there. So we just need to add fluid, and then we can hook the drill up and see what kind of pressure it makes and if it leaks. Okie dokie. Fluid in it. Drill hooked up, pressure gauge hooked up. Let's see, let's get her in low gear to start with. Looks like it's doing 140. That was probably overdrive. This should be direct. And that's under. So, 140 is like the low end. It's acceptable, but I'd like to put another shim or two in there. So far, so good. No oil pouring out from yon back area. Well, I got to get that off and then come up with a shim. I think I'm kind of low on those. I'd like to see 160, as high as 180, but 160 would make me happy. Okay, I forgot to push, the button on the GoPro, but I wanted to, got this out. There are no shims in it. I wanted to pull the plunger out to make sure, which I already did, that, there wasn't shims up in there that had fallen sideways or something, or we're gonna get jammed. That's why I like to keep the shims out by the cap. They can't get into bad places they don't need to be. So I'm gonna find me something shim-like, a flat washer of some kind, and get it in there. I'm impressed it's got that kind of pressure with no shims at all. So we're doing good. Okay, we'll start in underdrive. So that gets us about 35 PSI of lube pressure. Go to direct. Hopefully that's showing up. Yeah, I bet I was 135 before. That bubbles right on my... Yeah, I'm doing about 145 now. Well, let's try overdrive. So that one got us about 10 PSI. So if I put in, I'm gonna try 2 more. All right, 2 more washers, shims. Let's start in underdrive. Let's move this to this hand. And direct. Yeah, we're about 165 there. And, battery's getting weak. Yep, battery's about done, but just a hair over 165. Let's switch batteries. Okay, overdrive, we'll ease into it. Yeah, about between 160 and 165 and 170. About the same, 165, just a hair over. And underdrive, we only need pressure for lubrication. Beautiful. Underdrive. Just running it for a moment here to make sure nothing's going to leak out the back. Now let's try direct. I think there's a little overlap there. Woo! All right. What do we have? No leaking. It was a steady, it wasn't just a drip, it was a stream coming out of there. Between a stream and a drip. But there was no mistake, there was a leak. So I think I got it. All from having to pull this engine, all from just someone having to put the wrong size O-ring in there. My guess would be that after double checking or looking over things to wander around here, it was just here. The old seal really didn't look that old. There it is. Yeah. So I think it was that O-ring. And then when they were doing their clutch job, this is all speculation on my part, so I have nothing to prove it other than clues, solving the mystery. But had to have a clutch job, so they thought, well, as long as we're in here, we'll put a new seal on the back of this. They put the wrong size O-ring on there, didn't tighten it up good. There was this little, they even put some goop in there, whether they went back in again. Yeah, this stuff to try to seal it up, whether they knew they were doing wrong or wanting extra insurance, I don't know. It's weird that it wasn't slinging more, because if it was coming out around here, it seems like the chain would catch it and throw it, but it was mostly just going down, and maybe the lip seal was bad. But that's what I'm going to go with. That's my theory. I'm not seeing where, like, there's a loop or a lubrication circuit down here that can get, you know, if someone leaves an O-ring out of there, it'll leak there. There's no sign of that. They could have left an O-ring out for this bolt here to seal that. There's no sign of that. Now that I've wiped it off, maybe I'll run it just a little more. We'll see if that bolt gets wet, but there's nothing. I think we have solved that problem. An O-ring. Well, the sprocket was worn, so it needed changed anyways. The chain, I would say they put a new chain on, and I might even reuse that one. It flexes like it should, but it has no play in the pins. It just acts like a new one, and some of these new ones are not as good as the older ones, so there's probably a good chance that's old enough to be a higher quality. It had the stainless steel cotter pins, which is a good sign. So that's where we're at. I am gonna plug this GoPro in and go dig for my extra bolts so we can get that part done. I'll plug this in, it can charge. I can go out into my cold storage and get cold. And hopefully find those bolts. I know right where they should be. And if not, I'll order some. Well, those other ones have more of a countersink. We're still gonna back one out. Might not be able to switch them. There might be a length difference. Nope, doesn't appear to be a length difference. Yeah. More threads on the newer one. Yeah, 3/8 12-sided. It sticks out as much, but the edge ain't down there where these are rounded down, so we're gonna call it a good thing. I'll replace the rest. I've got this one loose already, but as it came around, you can see, boy, maybe the chain come off at some point, but that one had taken a hit at some point in its life. I wasn't real thrilled about it. Okay, we will now spin her up again and make sure something ain't gonna leak after switching them bolts or hit or whatever. other battery. No signs of leakage or seepage or anything. Yeah. Between that nut being loose and that sprocket wasn't entirely engaging the wrong sized O-ring right, that pretty much had to be it. I guess we put her back in and we find out, but like I say, for as bad as it was leaking, something would be showing up by now. All right, let's get these kids back together. See how easy that is? Wow. Almost too easy. Like maybe I forgot something. I think there is not much reason I can't just drop that back in the frame for now. And these power steering hoses that someone made up, they're not terrible, but I'm thinking they would, ouch, be see if they'll fit down in there. They're riding along the top of the rail. Get it under there. I think we'll be all right up here. Just be back by this engine mount. That could be an issue. I think that's what one of these holes is for, is the clamp. And I might have to do that. But I'm willing to try it. Get those, like you say, they're not just sitting up here on the edge. A little cleaner look. Okay, I'll sweep a little bit so everything rolls good and we'll drop her in. She's got to go back up some. I could disconnect them and try to slip them in, question mark, but I wanted to pull this dipstick out and put sealant on it because I didn't have it in there good. So yeah, back up she comes because I wasn't paying close enough attention. I remember they were inside this. Back a little farther. I think I'll hook those cooler lines up before I drop it all the way and make sure it's all in place. Okay, that's in place. Let's let her back down. Gotta go around to the other side, make sure those power steering lines ain't getting stuck under the oil pan by that support for the front axle. Yeah, that feels good at the moment. This all looks good. There, look at all that gap. Make sure them hoses are, yep, they are movable, not pinched. Good. Now we need to go up just a hair and get that closer together. Is it actually beneficial or advantageous? I don't know. Yeah, advantageous. To get the chain on before you slide the engine all the way back, it gives you a little more room. You can get the pins in the back and then without fighting it so much, as I'll demonstrate. You can get these short ones in and bent. While they're out, or while they're easy to get to. I'm doing this before getting any of the motor mount bolts in, because that gives me, having the engine ahead, even just a ½ inch, gives you just enough extra room to do what you need to do. So, like so, and then like so. That's ready to go. You want that, so them sprockets as close as you can get them, left to right, and up and down. When you got good sprockets and good chain, there's not much room for error. Yeah, let's try that. Let's see if we can do it without getting any. Now hopefully it'll stay in the sprocket, and nope. That is the downside of these 4-wheel drive ones. That transfer case is right under there. I wonder about putting a dab of that clutch grease. That stuff is sticky. Maybe that'll hold it enough. I'll go for it. Oh, and I dropped it. Get a couple of dabs. That feels pretty stuck. Oh, it popped out. Well. It does get pretty close to those bolt heads, doesn't it? A bigger dab. A couple of dabs. Oh, my light looks like it's running out of battery. Just in time. Stay in there, buddy. Yes. Yep. It's like no wonder it's turning hard. I had it in gear. I was trying to drive the whole tractor. Now I like the heads to be facing in the direction of travel. The head is the loop part. It's already looped. There's that one, and there's that one. Let's push them back, make sure I got my loops on the right end. Nope, that one got turned on me. And I can feel that one. I just have got one. Just gotta push the other one back, slide that down, show you the back of my hand. That head's facing the right way, that head's facing the right way. Well, of course, the battery died, but I got it all in there. If you can see it. If I, do this and this, using that clutch grease really helped. Really made that chain stick in there, and it'll keep it from rusting. Cooler lines are hooked up for the over and under. So the motor is basically down in place. I'll have to lift it up a little bit, slide it back to where it needs to be, lift it up enough to get the shims back under the front. But heading back in the right direction. I've been kind of thinking, people have said this tractor needs a name. People like it when the tractors have names. And this is my very first red tractor. Maybe it's cliche, but I think it's going to get called Red. I asked the previous owner, he bought it, I bought it from his auction, and he bought it out of Canada, but it's been a while. He bought and sold a lot of tractors, so I asked him if he knew any of the history on it. Said it'd been so long, he couldn't remember. So all I know is what I know from the build card, and figuring things out from there. Let's get some mounting bolts in. Yeah, she still needs to go back a little more. Now that the coupler's all done, just gotta get it lift enough to get the weight off. Maybe now I'll let it down. It's close. So that way when I align it with my drift here, it stays where I put it. Let's try that. All right, it's in. All you're gonna see is my fat fingers if I try to record putting the nut on, so. Okay, she needs to go up a little bit so I can get the shims back under there. The shims look kind of, hodgepodgey. So let's see, I'll put the bolt there. See if we can hit the hole. Yeah, got it. I have impressed myself. Okay, let's let her down and see how the sprockets line up, top and bottom. So they've got so many shims in there. It feels pretty good. Side to side's good, but that's controlled by the back 2 bolts. Really all the placement is. Only the pitch would be controlled by the front with the shims. All right, I think we're gonna roll with it. They had it, and I guess it was working. Oops. These are 9/16 bolts. So you're gonna, need a 13/16 on the head of the bolt and 7/8 on the nut. Don't swap them out with 1/2 inch. Yeah, it fits easier, but then the bolt or the engine can get out of line. You don't leave a lot of room to swing a ratchet in there. Dugga. I think that's good. Well, I did some digging and I have a valve cover gasket, so we might as well refresh that while we're here. There's the part number, although that's for the pressed steel cover. There was also a cast iron cover at some point, and that's a different gasket, according to the parts book anyway. So I'll get that cleaned up before I even pull it, so I ain't getting dirt in places it doesn't need to be. But for the moment, I had already rounded up my transmission oil line hose to replace these two hydraulic cooler hoses that are soft as a marshmallow. Well, actually this one, it's got a crack in it. We're gonna replace them both. This one's soft, this one's a little tougher. I think it's the same stuff as this. It's like a couple different size of hose clamps and all that good stuff. We'll change that around too. I guess the first thing we'll do is get some cut to length. There's that one. I'm gonna make this one just a little longer. There. I think someone has a size too large of hose on here. This is 1/2 inch hose in ID. I think this might be 5/8. Explains why it's squeezed down so much. Later tractors, I think, and especially into the whites, I think you got into 5/8 diameter. Possibly. I guess these hose clamps are working. But it's kind of nice to have them all the same size so you don't have to grab a bunch of wrenches next time I'm in here doing something, which is hopefully a long time down the road. This piece. Well, the fact there ain't a bunch of oil leaking out already probably tells me it's not going to be bad. That should have a, you know, a flare or a, I don't know, a doohickey. Should have thought about where I was going to put that. Oh, I'd like a little more on than that. More on. We got fresh leaks to make for a mess. That's a tight fit. I guess that's good. I want it facing towards the front. Then if I need to snug it up at some point, it's facing out where I can get it. Probably better check the hydraulic fluid level. It was on the stick. And it also, one of these is returned to reservoir. The other one comes from the power steering. So after it goes through steering, it, let's just throw you in that pile of oil dry. After it goes through the steering, it comes up here, goes through, and then returns to the reservoir. There's about, steering uses about 3 to 5 gallons of oil per minute. So that gets you enough flow through here to, even when you're not steering, gets you enough flow to push some oil through the cooler and get some heat out of it. Throw it back in the reservoir and it can be used again. That definitely needs to get on there farther than that. That barb does two things. I mean, it helps it seal better, but also you want to make sure the clamp is upwind of it, because it also makes it so that the hose is less likely to push off, because your clamp is clamping on an area that's smaller than it, so it would have to go out to get over that hump. So it's kind of a double duty thing. All better now. Got that last hose clamp tightened up. Now I got an oily mess after I went and cleaned everything up. It's like I need to talk to tech support to figure out a good way to get this oil removed. So let's see. Remove oil from tractor frame. Ah, yes, the tried and true brake clean. Why didn't I think of that? Thank you, Rosquatch. Turn that right side up. Water pump gaskets. I'm gonna go ahead and put the water pump on before messing with the valve cover. One more hole covered up that crud can't fall into. That's the water pump. That's the Oliver number subs to this Massey Ferguson number. Then there was the gasket behind the pump, or behind the spacer block. This one just had the regular old water pump gasket on it, which should work. Let's see, that's the water pump side. This is the back side. You know, that's going to work, but for whatever reason, the Oliver gasket had all that compartment covered up. Probably coolant seeps. Oh, there's a bleed hole there. So, go figure. It will get filled with coolant. So why all the extra paper? I don't know. I'll get these all slathered up. We can get that pump on, not that pump. I just happen to have this long stud. It's fine threaded on one end because everything Perkins is fine threaded. I took the time and chased out all these holes with a tap. But boy, is something like that handy when it comes time to hang multiple pieces like this, where you got a gasket. And then you've got the thing that's sitting right in front of you that you can't see. This spacer plate, and then another gasket. So many things that just slide out of place. And then, lastly, a fresh water pump. It already has one of the bolts in it because it hits the pulley. And that's why the other pulley must have had a little notch out of it. Because they farmer improvised. Farmer prized. That's the word. Pretty much need to start this bolt right away because it's hitting the pulley and keeping everything out. But at least I have 2 points holding gaskets in place so that everything's lined up in theory. Did I mention to put anti-seize on the bolts? Anytime I'm working on water pumps, I put anti-seize on the bolts because all it takes is the slightest leak and all of a sudden everything's corroding. And why, oh why isn't my 1/2-inch wrench fitting this bolt? Did I spray too much paint on it? This is a aftermarket water pump. I did some shopping online to find the best price. I got it through eBay. You can get the water pump through Agco. And if my other pulley wasn't so whooped, I would have gone that way. But I needed a new pulley too. So who knows how many hours things have on them, which water pump that tractor was actually, born on. But one thing I've noticed is that this tractor must have worked in muck because there is just muck stuck in everything. The dash, point the camera that way. The dash was like, let me line up my wrench here, half full. I mean, And I finally had to take the 2 side bolts out and tip the tin part back so the rest would fall out the bottom in these big chunks. I'd vacuumed a lot out prior to that. There is just, you can kind of hopefully see it right there under the panels. Pretty sure this tractor got a good power washing when it was bought by the place I bought it from. So, you know, a lot of it went away, but man, there's just, so if you think about all that muck flying around, going through the fan and radiator and getting in here, that's going to cause a lot of extra friction on that belt and cause it to wear. So that's what I'm going to blame it on. But you know, it's a 58-year-old tractor, so who knows, with had a broken tack, so who knows how many hours are really on it. Let it go. Man, I really laid the paint on that one. It's got a couple of coats on it. I ended up buying a can of Massey Ferguson Red, and then Rust-Oleum also had something called Sunrise Red, and it looked just a little darker. But you know, once I painted them side by side, I really couldn't see a difference once they dried. I think the water pump's all Massey Ferguson Red. Seems to be pretty darn close. It's gonna work for now. It was better than the silver that this came. I think I was trying to get at that point at some point. But, come on. Oh, you know what? I didn't put anti-seize on this bolt because it was already in there. I'm not going back. So we'll get the rest in. Before it gets too tight and I can't, you know, swivel it around to get the bolt holes to line up. Well, I think I can get a bolt back in that alternator. They had a way too long one with a jam nut. And I'm sure the idea was they knew their belt was slipping, but they didn't realize it was because this pulley was worn out. They thought maybe their alternator was coming loose, so they're cranking down on it and then locking it and not seeing the real problem. Let's get this thing cleaned up. Well, we did determine there was a thermostat in there, and it is retained by a snap ring. So we'll get cleaned up down in there as well. And we're gonna put a new sending unit while we're at it. Here's the one that was in it. Facing like so. Coolant goes through and returns back to the block until thermostat opens. And you got a little that check valve there to let air out, and a little bit of coolant will go through that to make sure it's kind of crossing the thermostat. But I got looking online. AGCO does still offer a thermostat for that, but they're like, man, it was kind of salty. And I found a video by Bandit, who, you know, probably a lot of you have watched before. Pretty sure he's a pretty regular viewer here. And he went to his local auto parts store and said, well, that looks a lot like something out of a Chrysler. Now, I'm not a Mopar guy, but I do believe he said a 426. They had to try a couple different ones to find something that worked. And he found one for only 10 bucks. And I'm thinking that's probably roughly what that is. Well, I did some more checking, and there's this high performance thermostat, which looks just like what's in the picture on agcoparts.com or parts.agcocorp.com. And it's one of those unopenable packages. I should have thought of that. But I am going to open it, and we're going to see how it fits. But the idea is it has more opening. It's a high performance one, so it's got more, it's a high flow thermostat for high performance for the Mopar, 180 degrees. For those racing guys, opens at correct temperature consistently regardless of RPM. Ideal for high performance street, drag race, and oval track use. The short and skinny is it's got more room for coolant to flow through, so you can get more to the radiator. And it causes cancer in California. One utility knife later, it is out of the box. Let's see how well it fits. Perfect. And I forgot to grab snap ring pliers, but if you're looking for a thermostat, I looked up a 426 Hemi, and I found some other ones, but this was coming up as a performance one. And like I say, they have a picture. A lot of the AGCO parts, I don't want to disrespect them or anything, because hey, they still supply a lot of parts for tractors that haven't been made for half a century. Had a picture one looked exactly like that. This fits in there. I can see the snapper and groove. It's going to work. So if you're looking, Mr. Gasket 4367. That one costs, because it's high performance, I don't know, about the cheapest I could find it was, I think I got that one off from eBay for right around 40 bucks with shipping, or free shipping, but you know, they figure that in. So now I got to find snap ring pliers. It's like a charm. I think we have a winner. Of course, the proof will be in the pudding that it opens and lets coolant through, but that's its whole job. It'll be good. And then I have a new, is that the right thread? Yep. New temperature sending unit that I got from Corvus Oliver, and got the right wrench and didn't bring my thread sealant. Still using the old leak lock. That stuff does work good. The original Oliver, where'd it wander off to? Maybe I pulled it out somewhere else. Sending unit that was mostly used was 1/4-inch pipe threads. This has a 3/8 hole, so there was a bushing adapter which pulled it out farther. This is a 3/8 pipe thread sending unit, so that should get it in there a little closer to the coolant and hopefully give a more accurate reading. It sticks in there just a little farther. It'll get the idea. I think she's ready to go on the tractor. Yes, that is the correct gasket. And it should be, because it's a OEM 159071 AV. AGCO started their vintage line of parts actually some years ago now. And so they would just, like the original Oliver part number is 159071A, and V meant vintage, I guess, for them to keep track of it. And then as far as part numbers go, if you see an AS, that means that it was an assembly. So something that had more than one part. So a complete water pump was an AS, because you had bolts, you had a pulley, you had bearings and stuff. So yeah, if you're looking at something that ends with S in Oliver part numbers, it's an assembly. If you remember right, in the previous installment, the center stud was stuck and the top 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, were filled with studs instead of bolts. I got checking the book, and there was a change at some serial number. They went from having bolts to studs, or vice versa. But I'm putting bolts back in, by golly. We'll get these slathered up with the old anti-seize to hopefully prevent that from ever happening again. And got to remember that these 3 bolts also hold the air cleaner. So I got flat washers on them, but I'm going to put it on without the air cleaner, and we're going to do a little modification to the air cleaner before this is all said and done. Once again, use that long stud to help keep the gasket in place, and maybe it ain't gonna slide over that. That stud is a little tweaked. Oh yeah, okay, it's quite tweaked. But that super sticky goo holding the gasket in place, so we'll just go like so. The bolt got to the bottom without even struggling or having the air cleaner in there. So it'll come back out a little bit before it's all said and done. Plus these bottom bolts are all the originals, so they should be all right. And I did clean the bolt or the threads in the head. Bought a new hose barb to go in here and the other one for over here. Well, let's find more stuff to do. All right, we'll tighten those fittings after everything's lined up and bolts are in and, you know, stuff. See those 3 holes? We're gonna make them into slots. I don't know who's gonna own this next, but they'll thank me, I'm sure. I was about to put the air cleaner on, but you know, that kind of hangs over the valve cover. So we're gonna stop on this part of things and get to that valve cover gasket, and might as well set the valves while we're in there. And we can come back to this once that's done. You know, just gotta do little things like that to make your life easier. Work smarter or harder, or hard and smart, and just get stuff done. I guess that's kind of where we'll leave this one, and we'll pick back up. Like I say, plenty more to do. The radiator's at the shop, so who knows how long that'll take. Haven't heard back on it yet. It's only been there a couple days. Still got to drain that rear end oil, but yeah, she's coming along. So I once again thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.